Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls Golden What If, and I am back. I'm back, but this is the Golden Kingdom, and I'm back for part 2 of What If Naofumi was the Gamma hero. And normally this isn't going to happen. We won't have somebody do a part 1 and a part 2, but kind of we're at a little bit of an impasse here with some weather difficulties and some other stuff with other people around the world in the kingdom. So it came down to me making a part 2 for this What If. So I don't really mind. Might as well get it done. And that's what we're doing right now. So I'm not going to waste much more of your time. And let's just get right into What If Naofumi was the legendary Gamma hero. Let's get it. Last we left off, Naofumi and Raphtalia were leaving the kingdom. Immediately, they head down to Loot Village and begin contemplating on what they should do. Of course, they need to prepare for this next wave, and Naofumi dominated the duel, but that he's sure that these other people in Melremark will have something to say about it. Soon after being at Loot Village, they are talking, and then they hear someone approach outside. This isn't the best thing in the world. They walk out to see Motoyasu, and Motoyasu with its seemingly a wrapped up arm, and he begins speaking, or Mine begins speaking, about them taking over Loot Village. But Naofumi disagrees, saying that he will not allow them to basically take over this village, especially because they're talking about giving them insane taxes and all of this money that they don't have. Mine disagrees, saying that he cannot say anything, he's not even really a hero, beginning to basically bash him about hurting Motoyasu. But Naofumi basically says that it was a duel, and if she's that stupid, then he doesn't know what to say. And frankly, she was a big reason why Motoyasu got his arm taken off. And Motoyasu doesn't necessarily want to fight in this instance. He's been put in a bad position by Mine, and is starting to think that this isn't the best course of action. He begins to tell Mine something, but Mine rejects whatever he was about to say. But just as she's about to continue speaking, at least nonsense, a shadow appears telling Mine that they need to go right now, and basically shows her this little note of some sorts from the queen. And she scoffs at this and gets mad, and eventually she's forced to leave, but tells Naofumi that his little hothead self will not survive in this kingdom, and that he is no hero. She walks away rides away with Motoyasu and a bunch of the knights, but everyone thanks him, but wonders why she would call him not a hero. And Naofumi just tells them that it's nothing too important. They're, well, you could say corrupt. They're not going to worry about all of them and what they think. He's only going to worry about what his party thinks, which is literally just Raphtalia. But even with that said, Naofumi begins to believe that maybe it is a good time to get another person in their party. They eventually head back to the slave market and decide to actually get another quote-unquote slave. But this time around, they get a gotcha egg. This gotcha egg turns into a Philolial, in which they name Philo. Philo begins to grow at a rapid rate, and during their travel, after getting a cart from Loot Village, Philo begins to change extremely quickly. She actually changes into a small little girl with wings. Naofumi is confused to see this, and Raphtalia is just as confused, so they decide to take it up with Erhard. When they arrive, Erhard begins to explain that, well, he doesn't understand all of that, but he does know that they need to have a special dress or special clothing that will more or less grow with Philo. He sends them off to the dressmaker, which the dressmaker explains that she does not have the means of making it and that she needs magical thread, sending them off to this odd-looking witch, which is more this magic shop owner. When they arrive, she begins basically explaining all that they need, and that she can go with them to see if they can find this gemstone that they need for her loom. And she says that she doesn't really mind because Naofumi and Raphtalia have helped so much with their village. So they head off to do just that. During their travel though, they do come across some odd man, and learning that he is a wealthy trader. This wealthy trader explains that he will reward them handsomely if they just take him to where his destination is, in which they think is fine. So they begin to bring him there, but they're stopped by a bunch of bandits. Naofumi steps out, and they all quiver in fear. Oh my god, it's him. It's that monster. No, please don't hurt us. Raphtalia and Philo jump around and begin knocking all of them out with relative ease, in which the trader questions why they're so afraid of Naofumi, and Naofumi just remarks that he has an angry side, you could say. They then are all knocked out, tied up, and left on the road as Naofumi and his party continue on. Eventually arriving at the place for the trader begins basically giving Naofumi instructions on how to be a trader like him, giving him ways to make money and various things like that. And even a little thing to basically go into the quarry. After some time, they do head off to find this gemstone, but what they find first is a bit alarming. Seeing this alchemist tomb that has the seed, or this cursed seed, no longer there. They enter the cave and begin searching around, but during this time, these bats begin to try and confuse and basically scare Naofumi and his party, making them hear certain things that they'd never want to hear. Naofumi's rage begins to build up, and he claps his hands, sending a shockwave, destroying all the bats that were doing this, and they immediately begin walking away. Philo and Raphtalia ask if he'd ever abandoned them, but Naofumi says that those were just the bats, and to not worry. They head off into the cave to see the giant monster, a monster that is sitting on top of this basically all of the gemstones that they need. So he decides to go handle that business, jumping toward the monster and basically angering himself to about 40%, smashing his fist into the monster, picking it up, slamming it, and ripping off its tail as he begins to smash its face in, eventually leading to its death. And Naofumi takes the gemstone, or basically the gemstone for the loom, and heads off with his party. After watching that display of power, even the magic shop owner is pretty impressed, saying that he's very strong, and that for a hero, she's never really seen a hero like that before. Naofumi says thank you, I guess, and she says that it definitely was a compliment. Someone that can protect Loot Village all on his own with just, well, another demi-human, it's pretty impressive. On top of that, being able to beat the spear hero in such convincing fashion. Naofumi questions that how she knew that, and she says that, well, word spreads fast. Also, why isn't she scared if she knew about it? And she says there's no reason to be scared. It's not like he's going to hurt them. It doesn't really make sense to be scared about it. Naofumi nods as they arrive back at the magic shop, and they begin creating thread. After the thread is completely made for Philo, they make a beautiful dress for Philo, and it's basically all ends well. So after a little bit of time, they finally get their first request from the trader. This request from the trader is to visit another village with herbicide, more or less because this village is being overrun by horrible plant monsters. So his party heads into that village, speaks with the people there, and they begin explaining that Motoyasu, the spear hero, actually brought a cursed seed here, and now it's just running rampant, killing people or hurting people at worst, or at worst killing them. And Naofumi says that he can handle it, that he has herbicide for it, but he doesn't know if this herbicide will even be strong enough. But he begins to grip it and basically touch the herbicide, and it begins to actually combine with his skin. It's kind of odd, but then it's outputted once again. It seems like his gamma radiation intertwines with the herbicide, strengthening the herbicide as a way of repellent, and should be able to actually exterminate these plants. He heads over and they begin smashing through plants with the help of Philo and Raphtalia, and with relative ease, they're able to beat him up really easily. Naofumi then spreads the herbicide with the help of Philo and Raphtalia, and it seems like the herbicide was almost instantaneous, destroying and killing everything almost immediately, and all the plants were able to be killed. Naofumi heads back up and reaches into his cart, bringing out some extra seeds that he has, showing them the seeds and saying that these are normal seeds, to not worry, and that these people or whatever, they're not going to basically, or these seeds are not going to basically erupt and try to kill people. And they're thankful for this, especially because since these aren't going to try to kill them, maybe they can actually break free of this famine. Naofumi nods as they leave once again, and the whole idea of this heavenly savior is definitely made. After arriving once again at a hot spring to actually deliver some merchandise, Naofumi begins to tell their group, Raphtalia and Philo, that they need some rest time. So he decides to just relax, calm down, and during this time, they just have a nice, just relaxing moment. While Naofumi sleeps though, he begins to have a nightmare. He's terrified of something, this anger overwhelming him, and maybe even pushing his limits to the point that he could go wild, go crazy, kill people that he doesn't want to hurt. He's not so sure, but he wants to make sure that never happens, at least hopefully. Naofumi then wakes up the next morning in a complete pile of sweats, and they ask him if he's okay. He nods that he is and apologizes for them to worry, or so that he didn't want them to worry. And they say that it's fine. They actually brought him something, showing extra money from something they actually sold, and also some interesting gauntlets that they actually ordered without Naofumi knowing. And they actually were able to scrounge up some money, and they talked to Erhard a while ago, and they were sent here. Naofumi is confused, and putting on the gauntlets, they actually do help his fists. They actually begin to surround them and just merge with him as if it was like some weapon. But he thought he couldn't really use weapons, but I guess this works perfectly fine. He enrages himself to about 30%, and they actually mold to him perfectly. Wow, this is definitely something. They agree and say that it cost a little bit, but Erhard helped most of it, or get most of it done, and he thanks them both for all the help. He then heads off with Raphtalia and Philo once again, but during this travel they hear of something, a village that is under distress, and that's because there's a really bad plague going on currently. When they arrive, they see that everybody there is sick. Naofumi unfortunately not able to do much at all. He tries to actually talk to them, but they really just say that it's above. It's the mountains that this dragon was killed by the sword hero Ren, and then this started happening. Naofumi, pretty mad at this, skyrocketing his rage up to 40% already, he begins to head up with Philo and Raphtalia. Once they arrive, they begin to approach this dragon and decide that they're going to package it up and get it out of here. They go to mess with it, but then it comes back to life. More like it's zombified now. It begins to stand up, and Philo stares at it, and she is pissed. She begins to charge at it, but this time an aura, this green aura, surrounds Philo, and her feathers even begin to change color as well. The same color skin that Naofumi changes when he's enraged. Philo, instead of getting swallowed when the dragon tries to eat her, let's just say she straight up kicks her way out of the cheek of the dragon and begins to beat the dragon down, sending and making holes in the dragon as if the dragon was Swiss cheese. Naofumi's shocked to see this and begins to anger himself up to 50%, making Philo even stronger. He doesn't know how they unlock this, but there must be a connection, this slave connection, and Raphtalia is confused as well. How did that even unlock? Is it because Philo hates dragons so much? Maybe Raphtalia can unlock that as well. He's not so sure, but he goes immediately to help Philo, and they begin to beat down the dragon relatively easily, eventually subduing it and finishing it off completely. I would say killed it, but it is a zombie because it's already dead, so I guess you killed it again? Something like that. But Naofumi and Philo and Raphtalia then clean up the dragon and head off once again. And when they arrive back at the village, they are all thankful, seeing that everything begins to start blowing over and everyone's feeling better already. Naofumi nods and says that it's really no problem, that he promised that he would get it handled. They thank him once again and actually give him some money. He leaves off, obviously, and begins to head toward the capital, but just as they're on their way there, Philo sees someone and runs out to her, and she's playing with other Philolios. The Philolios run away, and Philo meets a brand new friend by the name of Melty. Melty begins to dance around with Philo, and they actually ask Naofumi and Raphtalia if they can take Melty to the capital, and that she got lost, and she needs kind of someone to guide her there and take her there. And Naofumi says that's fine. He doesn't really mind necessarily. He just thinks that it is a bit dangerous for a little girl like her to be out here on her own. She nods and they hop in the carriage and begin to set off toward the capital. When they arrive, they are, let's just say, not greeted with open arms. Naofumi walks in and immediately is attacked by someone, attacked by a one-armed Motoyasu, And Naofumi just shakes his head, kicking him to the ground, telling him not to play games, that that's not what he's here for. But he remarks that Philo, that little girl, she's a slave? But Naofumi says that she's technically a monster, so he doesn't know what to tell him. She's technically a Philolial. And he doesn't believe it, but immediately Philo transforms and kicks him in the face. And now he kind of believes it. But will he remember it because of the head trauma? Not so sure. Naofumi begins to just let Philo go off with Melty as he talks to Raphtalia about getting them their class upgrades. They've been leveling up at a really rapid rate, especially even during the little bit of off time they've been training. Naofumi was already a pretty decent level, Raphtalia as well. Their levels have been very efficient in terms of leveling up, so more or less it wouldn't be the worst idea to actually get these class upgrades ASAP. And during this time, he basically lets his guard down, not thinking anybody would have tried to attack him, but Melty, or Mine, does send magic toward him and he gets blasted to the ground. Raphtalia pulls out her sword and basically the spear hero clashes with the sword as well. She tells them that to not touch Master Naofumi or else, and the spear hero begins to remark, "How could you call him master? That's just disgusting," and begins to say and basically talk bad about Raphtalia, and Mine does the same thing, but that doesn't even bother her. It's when they start talking bad about Naofumi, saying Naofumi is a monster, Naofumi is nothing, that he didn't help anybody. And once Raphtalia hears this, her skin begins to change color as well and begins to turn a slight green. She smashes her sword into the spear and it collapses to the ground, forcing him to slightly drop it, and she kicks Motoyasu in the face and then slams her knee into his head, immediately kicking Mine in the face as well, but Naofumi grabs her and pulls her away and basically forces her to calm down. Naofumi watches and basically realizes exactly how well they have this connection, and it's from pure rage. The rage of basically Raphtalia hearing people talk about him like that made her turn into this Hulk or Gamma-like energy, and this figure and her figure changed. This is something they can control. Do they know how to control it now? Definitely not. Naofumi's probably the best at controlling it, and frankly, he's not even that good at it. But even with that said, this is a power boost that they will need to actually learn to control. And Naofumi takes Raphtalia away, but just before they leave, Melty shows up once again, apologizing for everything and explaining that she is the second princess and the heir apparent to the throne. And Naofumi's shocked to see this and hear this. Heir apparent? What? But you're different. You're not like her, right? And she confirms, yes, that she's not like her sister. Her sister has a very toxic personality, and that's why she won't be the queen next. And Naofumi, once he hears this, he realizes, what would this girl do to become queen? What will Melty or Mine do to make sure that she gets in that position? That's something he'll need to keep into account, especially with her personality and the way she acts. But with that said, Naofumi asks to go basically be guided to the Dragon Hourglass once again to get his class upgrades. Going with Melty, but immediately when they arrive, they're rejected, saying that they will not let them get their class upgrades here. And Raphtalia and Philo are frustrated. It's asking why the hell they wouldn't, or why the heck aren't they going to be allowed? But they say that the other hero, well, the Gamma hero, whatever, the monster won't be allowed to get his class upgrades. And Naofumi says it's whatever, that it doesn't really matter, that they can handle this next wave and they'll just go somewhere else for those upgrades. Melty disagrees, saying that that is ridiculous, that they are here to help, but she can't get through to them. And even she begins to see something that nobody else has been noticing. The Three Heroes Church, there's something to it, and something bad to it. She's going to inform her mother about this as soon as possible. Naofumi is forced to basically go on his own now with his party and more or less just search for new villages. Maybe he can find a place that he can protect or new places to gain more things. But he actually comes across something else. People in need, and not basically people that will help him. These people are refugees. Refugees from Itsuki's revolution. A revolution that went wrong, really wrong. Replacing one government with another corrupt one, it doesn't help. and he's frustrated at this and actually helps them out, basically getting them food, water, stuff like that. But when he arrives back at the capital 24 hours before the wave, Ren and Isaki approach him about this and about stealing their money, but he explains what they've been doing. And after lecturing them about, for one, Ren not cleaning up his mess in terms of the dragon, and Itsuki not realizing that switching one corrupt government for another doesn't solve a problem, and once he makes them realize this, they kind of apologize in a way, and they don't want to see Naofumi get mad especially. So it might be half fear, half actually being sorry, but still Naofumi will take the apology, tossing them some money from the stuff they did, and they say thanks, I guess. Naofumi says he doesn't really care about the money as he leaves with his party once again. With 24 hours left before this wave, they begin to set up at Loot Village, getting these other people that actually want to defend Loot Village as well, some armor and stuff like that. But just as the wave begins, they begin to smash through monster after monster. They use this as a way of trying to basically learn how to control their quote-unquote gamma power, at least Raphtalia and Philo. During all of this fighting, they make sure that they can keep their anger down and focus. So they begin to smash through monster after monster, but 3 hours pass and they have no idea why the wave isn't over yet. So when they actually decide to go check in on these other heroes, they arrive to see that they are arguing. They're arguing about what? They're actually arguing about how they're going to beat the boss monster, and they haven't even revealed it yet. Naofumi points it out toward Raphtalia, in which she just dashes over and reveals the boss monster to be a Soul Eater. Philo then kicks a hole in the Soul Eater as if it was nothing, using about 10% of the anger she was bestowed, and kills the Soul Eater immediately. But the thing is, there's going to be one more. Naofumi stands his ground, gets ready to fight that second Soul Eater so that Philo and Raphtalia can rest a bit before activating their anger or gamma powers once again, but just as he goes to strike it, something else strikes it. Multiple of these blasts completely obliterate the Soul Eater, and Naofumi watches as a woman comes from the shadows, comes from above, and she says that her name is Glass, and that all of them need to die because her world is not safe. She reveals 2 twin-bladed war fans, and she wears a black kimono, and she is on a whole different level, at least compared to the other 3 heroes. Naofumi seems to be able to keep up. His power kind of contradicts her power in a way. His is based on anger, and hers is based off this magical aroma in a way. Basically, all her power is more or less based off of SP. Naofumi begins to fight, and the fight is epic. Naofumi does have a slight upper hand because he has party members, especially with their rage boost. At least they're able to keep up. They're a little depleted though. If they weren't as depleted, maybe they could actually finish this. But Philo and Raphtalia's attacks do put a number on Glass, especially because they're 30-40% stronger than what they would normally be. This is a massive difference. And Naofumi, on the other hand, is probably on par with Glass. And his strikes, let's just say, hurt at 50% anger. They are hurting her bad, and her defense isn't even the best. She can't necessarily keep up, and she's actually forced to just spew a crazy onslaught toward them, damaging Naofumi pretty badly. But this just forces Naofumi past his normal 50% to 70%, now healing all his wounds, and he shreds off the shirt that he once had on, at least the one of many he's been trying to put on, and he shreds it off. And now Glass realizes that this guy, he has infinite potential, infinite strength. She can't fight him now. No. It's not a good matchup for her, but it might be a good matchup for someone else. So she decides to take this as a quote-unquote draw and decides to leave within the wave. But why would she leave like that? Was she really that far on the back foot? Who's this other person she's thinking of that could might take on Naofumi, at least at the stage he is now? But we won't know for a little bit. Naofumi, Raphtalia, and Philo are happy that the wave is over, two of them collapsing. Naofumi still standing up, picking them both up and helping them to their feet as he carries them off, basically the giant ship that is slowly but surely fading. The other three heroes question him, saying that no, there's no way, that he has to have cheated, but he doesn't even listen to them. He just gets them to safety, makes sure that they get the proper rest, and Naofumi leaves them at Loot Village to basically get that rest until he's called by the king once again. When he's greeted by the king is mad, saying that he's hiding something that he needs to tell them now, but he says that a monster does not reveal his secrets because that is the only trump card a monster has. Any secret a monster has, you could say, is something very powerful. And the king is pissed, saying that he should not be talking in riddles, that when the king tells him to tell him something, he must tell him. And Naofumi says that's just not the case. He doesn't care if he's a king, a queen, a princess, a prince. He doesn't give a rat's ass who he is. He'll do what he wants, and nothing's going to stop him. He begins to leave as the king threatens to hurt his party, and Naofumi's anger spikes to 70% once again, charging at the king. He's directly in front of him and throws him at a pillar, and basically hurts him extremely bad. Now, think about what you just said. I'm done with this. I'm done with this dumb kingdom. Naofumi walks out and begins to head back toward Loot Village to speak with Raphtalia. What's the plan for Naofumi now? He's over Melromark. He's tired of them and over all of this stuff. But with him leaving, he actually is approached by a shadow. That shadow gives him an emblem, and that emblem is something that he already knew, an idea he had in his mind. Shadow leaves, and Naofumi is on track to what he needs to do personally. He needs to go take care of Raphtalia and Philo, make sure they're okay. But what's going to happen in these next wave, or this next wave? What's going to happen with the church? Well, you're going to have to find out on the finale of What If Naofumi was the legendary Gamma hero. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, comment down below any suggestions. And that's about it. I hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, I hope all y'all have an amazing day, and hopefully it's not me again doing the finale, but you might see me again. We'll see. Alright, I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.